everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And we have a treat today. Our next guest is a psycholinguistic specialist, something I didn't even know existed. And it really is fascinating. We'll go really deep into a lot of things in here that I believe will help you in all your relationships. But the most important relationship you have is the one with you. And so she'll help you learn to talk to yourself, not listen to yourself, what questions you should ask yourself. Really powerful information. I hope you enjoy. Sara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here.
So I know an awful lot about the things that you specialize in, but I'd really like to learn more about linguistics. What can you teach us?
If we could understand more the relationship between words and human behavior, we would think differently, talk differently, and act differently. So, so here's how I really put it is we as humans, we're just one big bubble of emotions. We're seeking an emotion all the time. Sometimes these are emotions that actually bring us forward. These are emotions that are keeping us in our what we call our comfort zone, which is not a comfort zone because we wouldn't want to stay there. It's a place where we're familiar. So we're always on a quest from an emotion. What happens is words crystallize emotions. So they bring it from the invisible world to the visible world. And then with those words, the more we repeat them, then we create stories. And these stories, when we repeat those, they become behaviors, they become beliefs. And we all know that our behaviors are founded on our beliefs. And our behaviors are actually giving us a result. So we live in the world where we focus on behavior and results in behavior. My reality is like, let's focus at the root of everything else, which are emotions and words. So the words that I use influence my way of thinking, mindset. They influence how I will influence for somebody. And when I listen to how somebody speaks, the choice of words that they have, how they structure their sentences, the verbs that they use, the tense of the verbs that they use, it actually tells me everything that's going on inside. So when we pay more attention to words, we know exactly what's going on inside of us and inside of the person that we are interacting with. And reality, the only thing that we have in life are words. That's how we make everything a reality. And that's how we influence or not influence ourselves and others. So it's bringing that intentionality between the relationship between words and human behavior. This is what it's all about.
Okay, so let's start with talking to yourself, not listening to yourself. And then we'll talk about talking to others. So take our listeners through, hey, my life isn't where I want it to be. What's one step I can do linguistically to make it better?
So there's two emotions that I call pivot emotions. Doubt and hope. When we understand how those two emotions are pivotal because they help us pivot behaviors. So my life is not where to be, or my business is not where I want to be, or nothing is working, or whatever. Can I bring doubt into that? Linguistically, how does that? Is it true? Do I want to believe that? Do I want to believe that now? What do I want to believe instead? So asking ourselves, like, what's the story I'm telling myself? And then bring in doubt. Is it true? Because we'll see that between the difference between a belief and a truth is that a belief is something that's true for me, and a truth is something that is universal. I can't change a truth, but I can change and I can challenge a belief. So first, let's not try to go to like, oh, my life is not where I want to. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Bring doubt. Is it true? The story that I'm telling myself, is it true? Do I want to believe that? And then I can go to hope. What do I want to believe instead? Because on the brain perspective, the brain generalizes negative and isolates the positive. If the brain has the capability to do that, With greater intentionality, I can do the opposite. I can generalize the positive and isolate the negative. Oh, that dimension of my life is not where I want it to be, but the rest is pretty amazing. That's where doubt kicks in. So, is that true? What's the story I'm telling myself, and is that true? Do I want to believe that? And where do I want to believe? What do I want to believe instead? And that's how we go up the emotional ladder.
Wow. Okay. So all that involves actually paying attention to what you're thinking. I don't believe most people do that. How do you start doing that if you haven't? I mean, most people I think believe whatever thoughts they have, that is reality, that is the truth, and they absolutely will die on that. How do you get someone to question what they've believed for so long?
So we believe that our beliefs are truth. We believe that the story that we're telling ourselves, and many of those that are, we are the only one that think that, like the imposter syndrome. I think I'm the only one who has imposter syndrome. No, everyone has. I think that everyone has an amazing life and just my life is not great, or everyone is succeeding, especially now with the social media. Everyone is succeeding, but I'm not succeeding. Like we have all these things. So by starting by asking ourselves, what's the story I'm telling myself right now? I ask myself that question, I don't know, 10 times a week. And on a bad day, I probably ask myself that question 10 times in the day. Because when I ask that question, on a brain perspective, when we ask a question, the brain can't do anything else but to respond and to find an answer to that question. The thing is we ask ourselves lousy questions. Like, why is my life is the brain will give you answers of why your life is not exactly where you want it to be. Why doesn't nothing ever works for me? Like the brain will give you, because the brain will always want to stay in alignment with that. So by asking ourselves better questions, then we get better answers. What's the story I'm telling myself? Huh. I'm telling myself that nothing right now is working in my life. Is that true? That's not true, because this and this and this. So I change the percentages of what am I generalizing it. So by taking a time out and just asking, what's the story I'm telling myself? So this we can put mechanism. I can have my phone beeping once a day, twice a day, with the question, what's the story I'm telling myself right now? That is how we stop that hamster that's going at 300 miles an hour. It's like we need time space to have head space. And the best way to get time space is by asking a question. And that is my go-to question is that, what's the story I'm telling myself? That just in itself can be a game changer. Now, before we go to there's a second one I love to ask is, where's the gift in this? Knowing that everything happens for a reason. Everything is on brand with our life mission. Of course, it was supposed to happen because that is what I'm supposed to transcend to help other people. This is a chapter in story called, like, you know, and it's like, so what's the gift in that? And often this question is not, it often starts where like, I know there's a gift, where's the gift? Where's the gift? And then as you process it, it's like, okay, I know there's a gift. But by asking these two questions, you can completely change the perception of events, the perception of beliefs that we carry. And from there, we can challenge belief, we can anchor belief. And that's really what we want to do. So we want to challenge the beliefs that are keeping us in something that we are like in what we know of ourselves, or we can challenge beliefs and bring on new beliefs to propel us to where we want to go. And it's not really like the next version of us, it's the real version of us. It's actually removing layers, not going somewhere else. So, those are two questions that completely can reframe a mindset.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's talking to yourself, and that, guys, is the only thing you have control over. You cannot, if it really is your husband's or your wife or your dog or your boss's fault, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's talking to yourself. Now, let's say you're a leader. Talk to me about linguistics in leadership.
So there's many ways that we want to look. There's one of the modalities that I teach that is super get easy to get is there are people who are moving towards and there are people who are moving away. So there are people in life and in one area of their life that are moving towards a goal, towards a project, towards something. And there are other people that are moving away. They want less of. Somebody will say, I want more money. Somebody else will say, I want to pay less taxes. Somebody that's going to say, if I sell mattresses, somebody's going to say, I want to sleep better. Somebody is going to say, I want to stop sleep. I want to stop insomnia. Like what we do in the strategy, what we're like, we're the goal, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to position our message the same way. So let me give you a concrete example. In my life, before learning this, so in business, I'm a very moving towards person. Okay. So I help my clients reach their goals, set their goals, reach their goals, explode their goals. Like I'm there, right? And at one point in my career, I had a client who she was very moving away. She wants it to be less complicated. She wants to have less issues. She wants less. So in my linguistic of we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there, and she's like, yeah, but I want less of that, less of that, less of that. I'm dreading our meetings because I'm like, my gosh, it's like it's complicated, and she's not having fun either because she's like, dang, she's pushy. Until I just understood that we're going at the same places, we're just not using the same linguistic style. And our job as a leader is to understand first our linguistic style, understand the other person's, enter their world, speak in their language. So I came with the same strategy, but instead of saying this will give you more of this, I said this will give you less of this. It's simple and it's not complicated. It's the same thing. It's just a different route. So many leaders, and not all, and there's no right or wrong, but there's many leaders who are moving towards style. If that's your style, understand that half of the humanity is the other style. So instead of thinking that it's complicated with somebody, it's just that they're different. And having agility, navigating different styles is what makes a leader a leader. For that, again, we need that headspace to be able to access this. So, like, which style am I? Oh, think of the best people, the people that you have the best relationship with. Chances are they have a similar style to yours. And the people that it's like, they have a different linguistic style. That's it.
And it seems
Years
pretty
ago,
easy to adjust.
it is. So a few years ago, my son, whenever he had to have a needle, whatever it was, like he was fainting and everything, and we had to go to the dentist and for a cavity, and the dentist had to put a needle to be able to do the work, and it was like it's not going to happen, and I'm like, God, you have to do it because otherwise if you don't do it you're not going to be able to go to your hockey tournament because it was really hurting, right? It's like one tooth pushing on a baby tooth kind of thing. I'm like, and you're not going to be able to go to the hockey tournament, and then your team is going to miss out on you on a player and everything, and I went, oh, my son is a moving towards, and I'm speaking to him like he's moving away. I changed. I said the same thing, but just differently. I was like, all right, then let's go. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much time and energy did I waste on like just on the linguistic pattern? And it's about understanding when people say. If somebody says, I'd like to do this, get that, what they're telling you is not a dream, not a goal. What they're communicating is a doubt. I'd like to is a doubt in myself. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have the manpower, the capability, the abilities, the expertise, whatever it is. So in leadership and in influence, it's understanding the conversation behind the conversation. Because when somebody says, I'd like to, we're like, all right, let's make a plan. Let's do this. Let's go. No, the person's just saying, I don't think I can do it. I have a doubt. So from doubt, can you move me from doubt to hope? Then we can start moving.
Okay, so I came to you and I said I'd like to. How do you move me from I'd like to hope?
Well, it's to understand. Is it, would you like to, or you're going to?
I'd like to. I don't know if I can.
I don't know if this. Tell me what scares you in that.
Just having to hire people, I don't feel like I'd be very good at that.
And do you believe that it's something that can be learned?
Yeah, I do.
And who do you know that was not good at it at one point and maybe developed it and got better at it?
Probably everybody who's ever done hiring.
So are you part of everybody?
I am.
Let's make a plan.
That's brilliant.
So this is how, when we understand that we're only navigating emotions all the time, we take words as face value, but words are just crystallizing an emotion. So I want to know, what is the emotion behind it? Because how many times do we hear people, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. And then we think they're lazy, they're procrastinator, or whatever. They think they're lazy, they're procrastinator, and they can't make it, which is even worse. When understanding that that is just how we communicate doubt.
Wow. You just got to dig a little deeper.
Yes, and the beauty is when we take the time to take the time, we know it. But when we're busy being busy, we can't access that wisdom. Because you understand these things, you feel it. But when we live here, I can't touch it. So who do I need to become to be able to access it? For others, but first of all, for me. Because the person who says, I'd like to start to go to the gym, and then they don't do it, and then they find that they're quitting on themselves on their time, and they're quitting on themselves all the time. And then what comes down, it's a downward spiral. If I quit on myself on this, then I'm going to probably quit on myself on many other things. Yes. So
I want to go there just a little bit because that is so detrimental that if you can't count on yourself, if you say, I'm going to the gym 3 days a week and you put it on your calendar and you never go, you have zero integrity with you. How important is that?
it's everything. Because every time I quit on myself, I chip away my self love. Every time. So I have a vision, whatever it can be for my life. We often think of, what do I need to do to get there? But more than that is, who do I need to become to carry that? I need to be someone with integrity.
How do you do that? How do you become someone different?
Well, the first step is always clarity. So I have a process that I use for absolutely everything that I do in life, and it's CFA, clarity, focus, action. So we live in a world where everyone's busy being busy because that's being glorified, but we're busy being busy because we don't have focus, because we don't have clarity. Like, if I'm a cab driver and you come in my taxi and I say, where are we going? You're like, well, just drive. We're going to drive. But chances are you're probably not going to be satisfied. And it's interesting because when you ask people, what do you want? You'll get either, I don't know, which means I do not want to have this conversation. Let's move on to something else. That's what it means. People will tell you what they don't want, people tell you what they've done in the past. All right, perfect. Now, in the light of that, what do you want? So having clarity of what do I want? What do I want to build as a life? What do I want out of my life? So I have a theme of my life, and that's my anchor. The theme of my life is adventure.
I'm sorry, the theme of your life is what?
Adventure.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm going to do something and I'm like, oh no, whatever, excuse. Then I'm like, oh, hold on. The theme of my life is adventure. Let's go. I have anchor points. I want to tell myself on my deathbed, I gave it everything I've got. There's nothing left. Those are anchor points. So first, it's to gain clarity on what do I want? What are my rules of the game called life? Clarity. Focus is what are my needle movers? And then action with intention. Not being busy. It's being busy moving forward. But if we don't have clarity, which 90% of people don't have, then we zigzag instead of going in a straight line.
Okay, so this is I am going out on a limb here. Meditation, is that important to you?
Mindfulness is more important than meditation. Because when we think of meditation, everyone thinks of somebody sitting on a cushion, sitting like this. And for some people, meditation is playing hockey, going surfing, going for a walk, washing the dishes and actually feeling the water. Mindfulness, because mindfulness is presence. So it's more important to be present than to be sitting on a cushion and going with an internal dialogue of, oh my gosh, this is so long. How long has this been? This is boring. I really can't do this. Mindfulness. So you can go for a walk, but present. And you can drive while removing the radio, removing the podcast. Be present. Feel your breath. Let and it's that space where we slow down so revelations can catch up to us. We know what we want. We know what's important for us. But by going 300 miles an hour, these revelations, they can't catch up to us. So knowing to slow down so that can catch up to us and say, yes, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is where I'm going. Let's go. So mindfulness is way more important than meditation.
Okay. I think that there are some people that would say that mindfulness is a form of meditation, that you can do a
I,
walking meditation. You can meditate while you're washing the dishes. It's mindfulness it is what you said about we know what we want. I think most people don't think they know. Their body knows, their subconscious knows, but it's that left brain that is trying to protect them. And you have to be able to get past that to be able to get to the good stuff.
yes, and we think that what we know is something magical, so big. But really, what we want, happiness, self-actualization. And I work with entrepreneurs from different fields and everything, and it all comes back like the mission is self-actualize to help other self-actualize.
So can you give me a definition for self actualization?
So contribute to a better world. So I have a client who's in finance. He's like, and ultimately he's like, I want to contribute to a better world. I'm like, there we go. He's like, but yeah, but that can't be my mission. I'm like, why not? It's like, yeah, but everyone says that. And I'm like, if everyone would actually say that and everyone would do that, we would live in actually a pretty amazing world. So we think that everything is complicated, and then we justify why everything is complicated, but it's the simplicity of it. We want to be happy. So there's two human needs that we all have, and it's evolution and contribution. Because if you look at every grumpy old person, either they haven't evolved and or they're not contributing to anything. So what do I want to contribute to? And it's not like, oh, I want to be Mother Teresa. No, Mother Teresa was not, I want to be Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was, I want to help the poorest of the poorest of the poorest of the poorest of the poorest. Go up one notch. That's it. As soon as they weren't the poorest of the poorest of the poorest of the poorest, she kicked them out. And she was cutthroat on it. Like, it's fascinating reading her story. But that's it. Is deep down we know because we've always known. So who we were at 5 years old is actually who we are without the extra layers. You're a happy kid, you wanted to spread joy. That's your mission. Spread joy. Can it be just that? It's all of that. It's the simplicity of it where we get caught up. We think it should be something super complex when it's not.
Just breathe. Just breathe. So you're also a business strategist. How does this work in the corporate world?
It's interesting because I used to focus really on the business, the strategy of the business, the strategy. And at one point, I'm sitting with a client and we're talking about their marketing strategy. And they're like, oh, this is awesome. This is exactly what we're going to do. This is perfect, Sarah. Like all the comments that you really want, right? The thing is, was the third time we had the exact same meeting. And this is where I'm like, there's something I'm not getting. I didn't say they're not getting. I said there's something I'm not getting. And this is where I went back to the drawing board, and that's where I did my double certification in NLP, positive intelligence, neuroscience. And that's where I dug in because it's the human behind the business that's going to make the mission happen or not. It's the human behind, always. So no matter what industry that we're in, it's always human to human. So we have a business strategy. So who do I need to become to create that, to sustain that, to hold that, to carry that? And this is why I navigate between the business strategy and the alignment of the humans behind it. Because it's not true that we can separate it. As much as I tried for many years, I was just focused on the business. And I was like, no, that doesn't work. So it's the establishment of the business strategy and the alignment of human to carry that business and that vision and that mission to make it happen. And what's really fun is that, yes, at first you put out a strategy, then you work with a human, and then it's like, oh, but that mission is just like version one. There's something bigger. And I'm like, that is the difference between potential and potentiality. Potential is what you can see. Potentiality is what you didn't even know existed. And that's my goal. So we navigate the two all the time because they all go together. And in everything is who do I need to become to leave this legacy, to make this impact, to have that difference, make that contribution. So they go hand in hand.
Okay. You don't have to give a name, of course, but you've worked with so many people. Can you give us a story, like an actual story of someone who came in this way and now their life is this way?
Oh, I'm sorting in my head, because I have a lot of clients in finance. I don't know why it happens. And so I have a client who started their business and they're like, okay, I want to build a $200 million business. I'm like, all right. I'm a little bit of a unicorn. So let's go and play out there. Let's go 20 years down. Where do we want to go as a business? How are we going to go? And he's like, okay, fine. We'll play the game. He did not want to play the game, but In my world, you don't have a choice. You have to play the game. So like, fine. In 20 years, $1 billion business. I'm like, let's play. And very like focused on what do we do, the strategies to regret, like the doing part. And with time, I'm making him realize that his role is to be a me for his clients. He's like, yeah, but I'm not kumbaya kind of thing. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. It's all good. And, we explore. And I'm like, well, you help your client explore what's possible. He's like, yeah, okay, I can get behind that. And I'm like, all right, let's have those types of conversation with clients. It's like, all right. The next month, we hop on a Zoom call. He's like, Sarah, I have to show you this. And he shows me a video of like a, a tractor in a forest. And I'm like, yay. Like, what am I looking at? He's like, that is my biggest clients digging to build their cottage, which is not a cottage, it's a McMansion. And I'm like, well, that is cool. He's like, yeah, listen to this. The client saying, thank you. I never thought this was possible. I never thought that we would be able to create that house, that we're going to host like all the family activities and everything. It had nothing to do with finance. He had the money to do it. But to go and explore what's possible. Now, my client, who's way on track for his $1 billion business, like way on track, understand that his role is way more than that. And that's where purpose comes in. What we do, we need to untangle what we do and why we do it. The purpose versus the vehicle that we do it. And when we understand that, we see that so much more is possible. So the conversation that he's having with his clients now are about their personal values, their legacy, not financial, their personal legacy. That's the type of conversation that he's having. So what type of client is he attracting now? Ultra high net worth clients. Because that is where those types of conversation happen. He's working less because he has less clients, and it's deeper work, more meaningful conversation. And he's so on track, like in his genius zone, and he's making a difference.
There you go. A shout out to Gay Hendricks on that one. Is that what you're talking? You're referring to the Genius Zone with Gay Hendricks, the book he
Oh,
wrote? No.
yeah, actually, I did read the book. I used the term before reading the book when I read the book, and I'm like, oh, thank you very much. But yeah, which is an amazing book. And you know what? The Big Leap is a book I read every year, pretty much.
Me too. That is one
'Cause-
of the best books out there, guys. Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. Get it
Yep,
and listen to it or read it or do whatever you do, but it will wake you up. It
yep.
talk about possibility thinking.
Oh yes. And every year I'm like, oh, either I forgot something or I explore something new. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's true. I did get that, but I dropped it and I forgot it. That's okay. Let's pick it back up. Let's move on. So instead of reading more books, sometimes I like to reread wise books.
Absolutely. I mean, come on, guys. When you watch a movie that you've seen before, tell me that there's not stuff on that movie that you're going, that wasn't there last time. I never saw that before. The same thing happens with books, and yes, the best ones, Think and Grow Rich, The Big Leap. There's tons of them that are worthy of rereads and rereads and rereads because you're reprogramming.
And we live in an era where we're always thinking of more of more. And I'd rather think I think more of better. So instead of going wide, go deep. And this is where again like my fascination with linguistics comes in. I'm like, where's the pause in the sentence? What's the verb that they use? How did they structure it? How did I come up with when somebody says I'd like to, it's doubt. It's by going deep in that vortex. So we want to make a change, we want to make a difference, we want to have an impact. Go deep instead of wide.
how much has NLP, the fact that you said you're like a double major or something, you said something at a double major, how impactful has that been for you?
For me personally, a lot, because when you do your NLP certification, like they teach it to you in the front of the class and then you go and do it in group. So it's basically, it's a certification that you get for your own life mastery. So as much as I'm not an NLP coach in terms of interventions or things like that. It's just not what I do. There is in the whole thing, there is one afternoon, an hour exercise that's on language. And it's an exercise that helps you to understand how people learn, right? So there's people who are visual, there's people who are auditory, there's people who are kinesthetic, and basically it's by listening to how they speak that they will tell you. Somebody will tell you, I see what you're seeing, what you're telling me. Somebody will say, I see what you're saying. Somebody will say, I hear what you're saying, right? So it kind of helps you there. For me, that 1 hour exercise of holy smokes, language. And that is from there. That was my biggest takeaway, was my entry point into the world of psycholinguistics. Of like, what if words were the only thing that we have? And really, it is the in the tangible world, it is we have the only thing that we have. Think of songs that move you. They're just words. Think of somebody that tells you, I love you or I don't love you. They're just words. Or it's what puts the invisible world of emotions to the visible world. So that was my biggest thing, is like, oh my gosh, how important words are. In reality. In coaching, that's also the only thing that we have. In leadership, that's the only thing that we have. In life, it's just words. So it opened the door for me to that realization, which then I went down the rabbit holes.
Very fun. I think you have the corner on the market, because this is, as much as I have studied, I've probably read 1,000 books on self development and brain development and all. You're the first person that's ever been this much on the language, the actual, what did you call it?
Psycholinguistics, which is an old science.
Psycholinguistics.
It's not something new. Ogilvy, who did the advertising, that's what he used to create the best advertisements in the world. Because again, in advertisement, what do they have? Words. Just do it.
You know that stupid nursery rhyme that says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me." What the heck? That is such.
They cannot hurt me or completely destroy me or completely empower me. They have all the power. And there's three really elements when I teach on psycholinguistics. There's three components that I put it in. I put everything in like frameworks and things like that. It helps the brain structure information. So there's the verbal, which is the words that we use. There's the nonverbal, which is the body language, because your body language is actually just communicating your inner chatter. That's what it does. And then there's the paraverbal, and that is the intonation, the cadence of their voice. And that has a huge impact. So I have two teenagers, and I don't know how many times my daughter will tell me, or has told me, she still does probably, can you say that sentence again, but with a different tone of voice? Because, and not in a cocky way, but I just said, like, you're wearing that? Or what are you doing? And then she's like, are you judging me? And I'm like, no, I'm really curious. And she's like, can you say it again, but with a different tone? And I'm like, okay, yes, sorry. But again, when we're stuck in our head, our paraverbal will take words and say it in a way that we actually don't mean it. And that changes the frequency of words. Like, I care about you, and I care about you. They're the same words. Like, you're wearing that versus you're wearing that. So it's different components, and in our inner chatter as well. So it's understanding, what do we say? How do we say it? Because that's just an emotion that we're communicating behind it. And then, yes, we want to reframe things. Like, oh, I'm so stupid. Well, I'm not stupid, but that was stupid. That's a huge difference. So our infamous I am statement, which on a brain perspective, everything that follows I am is a command for the brain. So I am a procrastinator. What I'm going to do, I'm going to procrastinate. The questions that we ask ourselves, why is this never works for me? Well, ask and you shall receive. So, and that's it. So I don't need, like, I had a client once, he's like, but I have a small business. I'm like, all right, let's reframe that. You have a nice business. And his relationship with his business changed. So they have that power. And if that's the biggest gift that I can contribute, my job here is done.
That's a huge gift. I do have to ask you though, because I think this number's correct, but I'm sure you will know. Isn't 70% of our communication nonverbal? Like, aren't you looking more at my hands and my eyes and the way I'm moving than the words that are actually coming out?
That study has been very controversial.
Okay.
Even the person who came up with it, he's like, yeah, no, that's not really what I meant. Because if I listen to, Italian television, I always think that they're mad.
Right.
And I don't understand any of the words. So this is where the verbal, the paraverbal, and the nonverbal all go together. So that study has been contested a lot because of that. Yeah, and there's so much, it's so deeper than that.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. So we've talked about several along the way, but I always have two questions that I ask at the end. So you're going to have to dig a little deeper. Books, podcasts that you would recommend for our listeners.
Well, books, I will go back to The Big Leap, probably because I read it every year. I just finished Hidden Potential by Grant Adam. Yeah, amazing book. So those were two that I would highly recommend. Oh, there's one. I'll put another one in there, which is it's not for everyone, but there's a really, really challenging one that's called Outwitting Devil,
Ooh.
which is the type of book that you read and you're like, oh my gosh. And basically, it's Napoleon Hill who has a conversation with the devil of how do we get stuck in the matrix in patterns and things like that, and how do patterns go from generations to generations to generations. So the people who really like geeking out on human behavior and how patterns are being transcended and how everyone gets stuck in the matrix, that's a really, really page turner one.
Anything that he does has got to be incredible. I can't believe I didn't know about that. This is cool.
Yeah, so there's a long story about that book because he wrote it, but his wife didn't want to read it because of the reprimanded. They didn't want a recommendation on it, and then his children kept it. Basically, it came out actually just a few years ago.
Very cool. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
And
Okay,
in
so
terms of podcasts, I really like Andrew Huberman
okay.
because he geeks out on human behavior. But I don't listen to as many podcasts as I used to, and I actually am reducing the number of books that I'm reading to give myself more headspace. Because I find that of that, we already know it, we already have it. And when we go for a walk without podcast or without any audiobook, whatever, we can access the wisdom we already have. When we drive and we actually pay attention, we're present, revelations can catch up to us, ideas can catch up to us. So, as much as I was the one who listened to podcasts at 1.5 the speed and read a book like every week, in the last year or two, I've reduced a lot so my own wisdom can blossom. So that
It's
would
great
probably be
advice.
Good
That is really great
recommendation.
advice. You've got to be quiet or you can't hear yourself. You can't hear your own still small voice. I've heard other people call it big mind, conscious living, all of those things. It's the same thing, mindfulness. You have to be quiet to be mindful. And
Yes.
I think it's really hard in our world that everything is screaming and everyone has an agenda for you. Everyone has an agenda for you. What's your agenda for you?
Yes, and it's to reduce the outside noise and increase the inside voice. And the
Love
mission
that.
that we carry, we've always carried it. So my mission is really simple. Is that we stop underestimating what we're capable of. That's my mission. Why? Because I've done it my entire life. But when we're busy being busy and hoping that our mission will come up, or like the sky is going to open, the light's going to come on, that's not going to happen. But there's something that we've been carrying forever. And that's our gift. And for me, is to stop underestimating what we're capable of because so much more is possible.
I love it. I love it. So, we will put all of your links below. People can find you. I have one last question that I ask everyone, and it's because you're on the podcast called Think Your Way to an Epic Life. What are some tips that you have to help our listeners think their way to their own epic life?
Ask yourself more often what story I'm telling myself. And I will share with you my two favorite words: curiosity, be curious, and intentionality, to live life with a greater intentionality.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Sara, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a really great time.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.